A dispensary now serves the nearby Basti with over 8,000 of India's poorest people. Already, this newly created dispensary helps over 100 people each day. The upper stories of one of the homes has become an educational facility where the IMH children gather for school. Soon, children and adults from the nearby Basti will also be urged to come to the school. The present nursery can now accommodate over 60 babies, and usually does, but even so, it's bursting at the seams. And from this nursery, IMH has, on the average, found homes for over 300 of these babies each year. The tragedy of the abandoned has not gone away. The difference is, some of that tragedy has been changed to joy. Joy is in Javed, a 7-year-old boy who came to the center almost completely helpless. Javed was diagnosed as having cerebral palsy and had spent most of his first 7 years lying in a crib with little or no stimulation, physical or emotional. He needed the special care of a family of his own, and 1 year after coming to IMH, a family was found in Minnesota. But at 8 years, when he went home to Minnesota, he was still like an infant. He talked like a 3-year-old. He still had sores remaining from his first 7 years in a crib, and he was confined to a wheelchair which doctors thought for sure would be permanent. With dislocated hips, knees frozen in a drawn-up position, and with curvature of the spine, it was even doubted that Javed would ever have the strength to propel his wheelchair. Love can defy the impossible. Javed secretly practiced going up the ramp to his home, until one day his mother left him outside, and he propelled his own wheelchair up and into his home. Talk about joy. When he arrived in March, his mother said that Javed would ride a horse by the end of summer. In August, he did just that. He started school and soon became fluent in English. Since then, Javed has undergone a series of operations, and for the first time in his life, has feeling in his feet. And Javed and his family are now working on yet another dream, walking. Joy that comes even in sorrow, as in the brief gift of Raju to Dick and Sue Wisner, who volunteered for a time at the center. Raju never made it out of Calcutta, but he loved his way into the hearts of his new parents and to everyone else at the center who saw this tiny child fight to live. It was like Raju renewed the fight in everyone there, and especially in Dick and Sue, to give other children the chance to live. If one child can mean so much in so short a time, how can you overlook the possible meaning of other children? The Wisners couldn't, for shortly after Raju's death, they welcomed Prakash into their family. Joy is in Jai, a 2-pound baby who had a chance at life because of an odd coincidence of events. It was Sherry's birthday, but when she and Sunil went to a restaurant to celebrate her birthday, they discovered that all of Calcutta's restaurants were closed because of the death of one of India's great statesmen. Instead, they decided to visit a maternity home close by. There they found this tiny newborn, and they named him Jai, after the statesman. Javed and Raju and Jai are just 3 out of hundreds of stories of joy. We cannot journey on until we duly record a living mission. Hopelessness contrasted with hope. Even as the center grew and helped more and more children, something else was happening. It was as if the eyes first opened to abandoned children and babies opened further. You just can't put fences around abandonment. Once you really see it, it haunts you more and more. The staff of IMH became aware of other children imprisoned in jails for no crime of their own. Some of them had spent 10 or more years behind bars, from the moment of their birth to their adulthood. Utter despair sat in their eyes. They did not even look like children, but rather like miniature adults, weary of life itself. If you can knock on maternity doors again and again, looking for babies, you can knock on prison doors, even if they've been shut for years. IMH knocked and knocked until they freed several of these children. And they didn't stop there. Today, over 150 of these prison children have found new homes. And the despair, once etched in their faces, has been replaced. And this is only one example of the spreading involvement of IMH with abandonment. Sadly to say, more than one kind of struggle is going on in the midst of all these efforts. IMH expected that pulling children back from death toward life would be hard. What they didn't expect was the constant struggle they would have to wage with people disbelieving the sincerity of their mission, or thwarting it at every turn because of not understanding it. To put it simply, nothing has been easy. It is difficult to battle for a child's life and at the same time battle the authorities, suspicion, and misunderstanding. That brings us to a leg in our journey called the future, and the dreams of those who have become involved with IMH, whether in Calcutta or Baltimore or Portland or anywhere. It was recently estimated in a petition to the Indian Supreme Court that 21 million babies are thrown away each year in India. Every month, 100,000 children die of malnutrition. Millions of other children are counted as destitutes and beggars. When there is such need, you are always at the beginnings. Even the word dream sounds like too luxurious of a term. Much more needs to be done. The daily abandoned children must still be found. It isn't enough to find homes for 300 babies every year. A bigger dent needs to be made in that figure of 21 million. The present dispensary needs to be equipped to serve more than 100 of the Bustee's poor children and adults. The nursery needs to be bigger. Something needs to be done about malnutrition, about the plight of poor mothers who have nowhere to go to deliver their children and have nothing to give them once they're born. The school and the upper stories of the center must become a real training center with the educational means to help people out of their poverty, to give them a sense of self-worth and value to the community. It is because of these needs that the center of IMH needs to take on even greater meaning in the future. It must become a real center, a hub which allows for these remnants of life that have been discarded